Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Mike Floyd with the Turf Toe Show, bringing you everything you need to know about Week 7 of the Lions American Football. We had the Orlando Apollos trying to rebound from that loss they took last week, and they rebounded all right. And also, this is the week of all the Johnny Manziel hype to see if he actually is going to do something. So let's go ahead and get into the recap. So the first game up this weekend was the Orlando Apollos playing the Atlanta Legends down there in Atlanta. This is kind of like a rematch of Game 1 where Orlando just jumped all over Atlanta and just beat the brakes off them. So they did that again this week. Orlando won this game 36-6, just beat the brakes off the Legends. I was, hyping up the Legends last week, saying that they were starting to click, starting to get a little better, but that offense just completely fizzled out. The head ball coach Steve Spurrier figured something out and just shut these guys down. The Legends, their defense just fell apart, man. I mean, it's pretty sad. For the Orlando Apollos, Garrett Gilbert, he went 19 of 23, 17 yards, 1 TD. So he bounced back completely after last week's loss. He had a really good game. Aaron Murray, I don't know if it's just the struggles that he had before and what they saw in training camp during the little month-long training camp that they had. The reason why Matt Steams was started out as the starting QB for the Atlanta Legends. I'm thinking that it's starting to show now, even with the whole new system. But Aaron Murray, he was just off all game. He was 16 of 22, 135 yards. He had 1 TD, but 2 interceptions. He actually ended up getting hit pretty hard, so he ended up bleeding from his, I want to say his left eye. He was bleeding from his left eye. So they ended up taking him out the game. Matt Sims came in 5 for 8, 60 yards. This was just pretty much a textbook beatdown for the Orlando Apollos. I mean, there isn't really much more to say. I mean, in the first quarter, both of these offenses were clicking. I mean, they were marching down the field just like Orlando on their first drive, just marched down the field and scored. It looked like Orlando was going to do the same thing, but they ended up getting stopped. But Terrion Folston for the Legends, that dude is a beast. It's like Terrion Folston's speed is just ridiculous. Like his closing speed is ridiculous. He had 8 carries for 37 yards and no TDs, but when you was actually watching the game, like that guy, he's going to get a call up. Aaron Murray got picked off for that pick 6, and that's just pretty much put a nail in the coffin. He threw a second interception in the third, which during that time, like I was talking about, his face was all bloodied up. Ended up getting benched for Matt Sims. For the Legends though, like their receivers were just dropping passes left and right. There was actually a pass in the end zone. Like the receiver was just by himself. There was a little air on the ball, but it hit him in the hands and he just completely dropped it. So I don't know, man. It seems like for the Legends, like everything that was going right for them just completely went wrong for them. For Orlando on the other side, they are the first team to pick up a playoff berth for the Lions American Football. I mean, they just been balling out. The one thing that's going to hurt the Apollos right now is the stupid little penalties on defense. If they can clean that up, they're going to be a perfect team. I don't know what the Legends can do for the rest of the season. I mean, they got 3 more games left, so they could try to win out and just have a better record than the Memphis Express. But at this rate, man, it's completely over for the Legends. I was kind of hoping they were going to do better than this, actually put up a fight, but it's a wrap, cat. Now the second game, the night game, was the game that I was looking forward to, which was Salt Lake Stallions playing the San Antonio Commanders in San Antonio. San Antonio fans came out in droves. They had over 30,000 fans in that stadium. So it just shows that football belongs here in Texas, which is also the reason why they probably brought the championship game down to Texas, because they know they're going to fill the stadium out. Now, I know there's a whole bunch of stuff going on Twitter and on the internet. Everybody's complaining about how the fact that they moved the game from Las Vegas to Texas. Well, the San Antonio fans showed them exactly why it's a good idea. If you're able to get 30,000 people to come out to the Commanders game, if the Commanders make the playoffs or make the championship game, that stadium is going to be packed out. So yeah, I understand that it doesn't hold as many fans as the Vegas stadium would. Would you rather have an empty stadium, pretty much even if you have 20,000 fans in a stadium that holds 60,000 people, it's still going to look empty, you know what I'm saying? So I would rather pack out the stadium, show like on TV that looks really good, because most people are going to watch this game on TV anyway. So then next year, possibly get a bigger stadium and go from there. I mean, yeah, there's high school stadiums that hold more people, but I mean, the Star in Frisco is not a bad facility. I mean, they're going to sell a lot of merchandise. They're going to sell out. This game is going to sell out, especially if the Commanders make this game. And at the rate they're going to make it. Right now, they beat the Salt Lake Stallions 19-15. The Stallions actually put up a really good game. I mean, I keep saying week after week that their record it's not showing actually how good these teams, the Salt Lake Stallions, are. They just little things keep screwing these guys up. And also, the San Antonio Commanders, you gotta figure something out. They'll get a lead and they'll just give it up. So they gotta figure out how to be able to hold on the leads and not just and let these guys come back in the game. Josh Woodrum for the Salt Lake Stallions, he went 22-35, 229 yards, 1 TD and 1 interception. He actually threw an interception on a 2-point conversion that actually got returned by Bosby all the way back. I think it was like the longest 2-point return or something like that in Alliance history or something like that. But it was pretty legit. Like the stadium just went nuts. Logan Woodside went 13-19, 164 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. He actually ended up getting hurt. He got hurt for something. So Marquise Williams came in, went 2 or 3, 49 yards, 1 TD, and the 2-point conversion. So it's basic. The game was basically the both teams doing what they do best. I'm just saying that when San Antonio gets these leads on teams, they have a hard time holding up. They did it against the Fleet. They've done it against the Apollos. I mean, they just can't hold on to leads. I mean, luckily they ended up putting up 10 points in the fourth, but if it wasn't for that, they would have ended up losing this game, because actually Salt Lake actually was marching down the field. They actually were going to tie the game. If it wasn't for the interception on that 2-point, that game would have been tied and probably would have went to overtime. So they got real lucky that Bosby read that ball right and ran it all the way back. There's not much more I want to say about this game except for that it wasn't what I expected it to be. I mean, Trey Williams with the Commanders, I mean, he had 1 TD, he had 1 reception for 39 yards. And Mikael McKay, I mean, that dude is just making some acrobatic catches. But for the Salt Lake Stallions, I mean, I do think they are one of the better teams of the West. It's just that their record doesn't show it. I mean, when you got teams like the Commanders, the Hotshots, and the Fleet out there actually balling out and actually winning the games, it's kind of hard for the Fleet. I mean, let's put it this way. If the Salt Lake Stallions were in the East, I'm pretty sure that they would be a top-seeded team. They would be between the Orlando Apollos and the Salt Lake Stallions instead of the Birmingham Iron right now. Don't get me wrong, I love the Iron, but I think that the Salt Lake Stallions are a more complete team than the Birmingham Iron. The last thing I want to touch about this game is Tyler Bertollet. That dude got a leg on him. I mean, he's just knocking field goals from left and right for 53 yards out. That's pretty legit. There's a lot of teams in the NFL that need a kicker, so I mean, they're probably gonna be looking at this dude for a while. And then going back to this whole championship thing, I keep stating, like, everybody's complaining about how the fact that they moved this game from Las Vegas a month out to Texas. I still think 100% that was the best idea. They're going to sell it out. It's going to look good on TV. And that's every time they show these games on TV, like take the Atlanta game. Yeah, they had over 11,000 people there, but yet it still looked empty. So the bigger the stadium is, that's for like an NFL crowd. I mean, we've seen Falcons games where the stadium, well, lately they've been kind of packing it out, but you know, it's just empty seats all over the place. And so if the teams are not doing too good, I mean, so let's say it comes down to Orlando Apollos versus San Antonio Commanders for the championship game. Do you think that these fans want to fly all the way from Orlando or just the Florida, let's say they're from the Florida area, all the way out to Vegas, when you got Dallas kind of essentially in the middle of both areas? So say like it would have been, so let's change again. Say it was Orlando Apollos versus San Diego Fleet. Yeah, it'll be easier for the Fleet fans to get all the way from San Diego to Vegas. It's like 2 hours, a 2-hour flight for them. But it's harder for the Orlando Apollos fans. So why not choose a site that's in the middle, a neutral ground site, so it's neither one of, so you won't be overpowered. Yeah, it'll be overpowered by San Antonio Commanders fans if they make it once again, but it's not gonna be overpowered. It's a neutral site. It just makes sense to me. I mean, sell it out, make it look like a packed stadium, so you can get all these people that are like, oh, they can't sell tickets, they can't get people in the seats. Well, smaller stadium, you fill it out. San Antonio would have filled that out a long time ago. Now, I am glad that they didn't bring it down to the Dome in San Antonio, because one, parking is horrendous at that stadium. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, every time I've been to a game, I've been to like 3 games so far, I've had to I actually take an Uber to the stadium so that way I don't have to pay for parking, because there's nowhere to park. They have different little like bars and stuff like that around the place that will actually do shuttles back and forth to the game, but those are packed out. And don't let the weather be, you know, pretty crappy, because you're gonna be outside the whole time. Also, I like the fact that it's in a dome. It's like, the game's gonna be in an inside area. So say like it is bad weather, there happens to be bad weather that game, doesn't matter. They can still ball out. They can still get all the angles. There's there'll be no excuses left and right. They're gonna be playing on a legit facility. I understand it's a practice facility, but it's a legit facility. It's a good field. They'll probably be able to test out some new camera stuff, because that's probably a big thing with the Sam Boyd Stadium. They probably couldn't get the wire system up there for that little Skycam thing they keep pushing. It just makes sense. And I mean, once again, I keep going back to the whole fact that you have games where they're not even selling out the games, the regular season games. So you really think they're going to sell out a championship game in Vegas that doesn't have a team, that it makes no sense to have it out there in that giant stadium. It really didn't. Now, I do feel bad for everybody who did buy tickets to the game. I mean, if you bought tickets to the game, you're going to get reimbursed for it. And if you bought plane tickets to go to the game, I mean, that does suck. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, at least it's a month out, so you may be able to do something with your airline and just switch out the tickets. But that's all I'm gonna say about that. So let's get back to talking about these games. So kicking off the Sunday games for the Alliance American Football were two teams that really need to like have a really good game, because this game had some playoff implications to it. The San Diego Fleet were playing the Arizona Hotshots down there in Arizona. The Arizona Hotshots ended up winning this game 32-15. The reason why I say this has some playoff implications because these two teams were playing for the second place in the West right now. The race in the West is still pretty like neck and neck. The San Antonio Commanders are sitting at number 1 right now, but that could change easily next week. But the way Arizona is slowly coming back on, I mean, they needed this type of win to keep the push. San Diego, they got some offensive problems they got to throw up, and then some defensive like little woes. I mean, Demontrez Moore actually went down in this game. He ended up getting hurt, so he should be back next week. But speaking of that defense, they got to really start paying attention to snap counts and everything. They kept getting drawn off sides by John Wolford with that hard snap count, which was just giving them free yardage. So that's something that, you know, Mike Martz is going to have to look at for the next game. But like I said, Arizona ended up winning this game 32-15. Mike Bercovici for the San Diego Fleet actually went 22 of 43, 310 yards, 1 TD and 2 interceptions. John Wolford had a bomb game, like amazing game, 15 of 19, 212 yards, 2 TDs and 1 interception. He had a rushing TD. Dude was just all over the place. Trevor Knight actually got into the game. He scored. I mean, they were just, the Arizona Hotshots are just clicking right now. Bishop Sankey, he made an appearance. You know, like I've got a love-hate relationship with that guy. He had 12 carries, 54 yards. For the Arizona Hotshots, Jarrell Presley, he went 15 carries, 64 yards. And like I said, Trevor Knight had 4 carries for 10 yards and 1 TD. They actually gave him the opportunity to do another, like two-point conversions, but he failed on both of them, so wasn't too bad. For receiving wise for the San Diego Fleet, they needed somebody to step up because they had Gardner and Ford both down this week, so they didn't have their big name receivers out there today. But Nelson Spruce stepped up big time for him, 12 receptions, 146 yards. Dude was all over the field, so pretty much everything that he caught was on the outside, which they should have just kept doing because for some reason they kept going back into the inside and Arizona was just locking that down. There was one play where they managed to sneak past that, I want to say the linebacker and the safety, and Marcus Ball was actually back there. This is the only reception that he caught and it was a touchdown. Technically, it should not have been a touchdown because number 85, Marcus Ball was, you know, like I said, he caught the ball behind the safety and the linebacker. Nobody was behind him. It was a walk into the end zone. He's running up, starts, you know, showboating a little bit, drops the ball on the 1 yard line. Now, what's crazy about this is the fact that the referee was standing maybe like 10 yards away from him, had perfect view of him. Probably was only see if, you know, dude got tackled or anything. Wasn't expecting the guy to just drop the ball on the 1. I don't think Ball was actually trying to drop it. I think he was trying to like flip it at the referee, just like, hey, here you go, like they normally do. But he wasn't in the end zone yet. Well, luckily for them, they didn't have an actual camera, like a sideline view of that touchdown play, because everything was reviewable at that time. It was right before the half. So the view that they had, it was all from behind. So there was a possibility that the tip of the ball might have like crossed the line, but we all know that was on the 1. And that should have been just straight up like San Diego ball on the 1 yard line. I don't know who recovered it because I actually kind of looked away because I was kind of shocked that it was a touchdown when I saw it. But I wasn't sure who actually recovered the ball. That's another thing. Like these camera angles with that sky cam, they need to, I understand like the ball is chipped, right? I saw somebody post this on Twitter. Why not have it to where there's a camera designated for that ball? So there's not these swinging views to where if they're running like a reverse, the camera's not swinging all the way back around. We're missing stuff that's going to have it on the field. I mean, it was a couple times in this game that I noticed that, but I digress back to the Marcus Ball thing. This is him dropping the ball on the 1 is some high school, college type stuff. You're a professional football player. You're trying to get back in the league, and on your 1 reception, your touchdown, you're throwing it down. You're fumbling it. It's intentionally on the 1. Dude, you got to be better than that. I mean, I know that they got lucky that they got the touchdown out of it, but I know Mike Martz is like screaming at him like, you can't do stuff like that. Arizona Hotshots, their big name receiver Rashad Ross actually ended up coming out the game. He's been dealing with like this nagging shoulder injury for the past couple games. I've noticed that every time he has like a big catch, he'll go down to the ground and he'll grab his arm and he'll stay down for a little while, but usually he stays in the game. I guess today it finally got to him where they actually had to bring him out and be like, hey, like let's get this guy healthy for this playoff push. He ended up with 3 receptions for 53 yards. And, you know, Thomas Duarte, he had that 1 touchdown. So personally, if I was, you know, Rick Neuheisel, I would shut down Ross maybe like a game just to get this man healthy, because if your other guys continue stepping up and you're able to make it into the playoffs, then I would reactivate him. Just make sure he's healthy because you're going to need him. If you say like they come against the San Antonio Commanders in the playoffs, the Commanders are real susceptible to anybody that can take the top off the defense. Rashad Ross can do that to you. He's good for big plays like that, real deep threat. So they're going to need this guy to be completely healthy when they come into the playoffs. Heck, even if they make a championship, you're going to need somebody like that. So I will try to get Rashad Ross as healthy as possible and as soon as possible. But besides that, the only other thing I noticed about this game is the fact that the Hotshots of the RPO. I mean, they started with the RPO, they ended with the RPO, and their slant routes, it's you know what's coming every single time. So if I was an opposing defense, I would just try to practice going against that RPO. If you got the Arizona Hotshots coming up, I'll practice RPO defense. Because once you take that from them, especially with Ross down right now, you can slow them down. But you know, the San Diego Fleet didn't make any adjustments. I don't know what, you know, Mike Martz was thinking. I mean, they scored 0 points in the second half. I mean, they scored all their points in the first half, and then you make adjustments at the half. I don't understand what they did. I mean, who knows? But like I said, this game had playoff implications. Now Arizona moves in number 2. San Diego's at 3. So it's going to see. Technically, San Diego can still take back that second spot. They just got to win out. It's looking like it's going to come down to the San Antonio Commanders versus Arizona Hotshots for the West. So for the final game of the weekend, it was the Birmingham Iron playing the Memphis Express. There was a lot of buzz about this game on social media due to the fact that Johnny Football is now playing with the Memphis Express. You all know my feelings about this dude, so I'm not even going to get into that. But before the game started, during the warm-ups, during the commercials, everything, there was so much attention on this dude. The coaches, not the coaches, but the announcers, they just kept talking. Marvin Lewis kept mentioning, oh, you got Johnny Football on the sideline, and they kept zooming in on this dude. You zooming in on the backup quarterback that's sitting on the sideline and not even focus on the actual quarterback who's in the game. Like, this game, it was so disrespectful the way they were just promoting the crap out of Johnny Manziel his entire time. It's like the dude you got a quarterback who's been with this team through the entire ride, who's been riding with this team on this losing streak, finally getting a chance to start, and all y'all want to do is push Johnny Manziel the entire time. Now, I get that he's going to be a cash pony for the league if he ever does get the start, but like, damn, like, at least let Brandon Silvers at least get a shot to even see what he can do. And he won them the game. Like, the Memphis Express D-line showed up and shut down Luis Perez, but you still needed a quarterback to actually get out there and actually get points on the board. And that's exactly what Brandon Silvers did. Brandon Silvers ended the game with 24-35, 266 yards, 2 TDs. I'll take that any day. I'm pretty sure the freaking Birmingham Iron would take that right now. They actually had the rights to Brandon Summers through the predicted pick draft and actually gave him up, waived him in order to sign some other guys. The QB on the Birmingham Iron side went 16-37, 235 yards, 2 TDs. He actually threw an interception, but it actually got called back because of defensive interference. But still though, it's like, the entire time, the Memphis Express fans were in the stadium booing the hell out of this man while he's trying to win you the game. Like, that was so crazy to me. They're sitting there chanting for a backup quarterback in Johnny Manziel, but yet you got a quarterback that's on the field right now actually balling out. Like I said, he went 25 of 35 for 266 yards. No interceptions. 2 TDs. And you're telling me that you want to start the backup quarterback? That's ridiculous. Now, I could see if he went in there and just stunk it up, like, completely, then put Johnny in. But instead, what they did is they put Johnny in, like, after they gave Silvers like 4 drives and put Johnny in for a drive. He had one good run. He went right at the middle of his first play, got the first down. I think it was like 13 yards. So he did his normal Johnny run stuff. Johnny Manziel actually ended the game 3 of 5, 48 yards. He had a nice little bomb that was down the field. Everybody's calling a duck. I don't really think it was a duck. It was a nice, I'll give him that. That was a nice pass. And he also had a bunch of rushing yards. He had 2 carries for 20 yards. But still though, Brandon Silvers wasn't playing bad. And they started rotating the quarterbacks, and it just made no sense. I don't see why they just can't give him the whole game. It's a possibility they would give him the whole game. They wouldn't have to go to overtime. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that this is the first overtime game in the Lions history. You rotate the quarterbacks. You have all the fans chanting for Johnny Manziel to come in the game. You know what? They should have just threw him in the game and just lost his game. Even though Birmingham was giving them multiple chances to win this game, they just could not. They couldn't catch the ball for nothing. They couldn't stop they couldn't even block on a punt. Birmingham Iron couldn't even like protect their punter correctly. I mean, they let Bonds come through, block a punt, return for 50 yards. So the special teams for the Memphis Express showed up. The defensive line showed up like hardcore for the Memphis Express. Pretty much the Memphis Express defense has been legit all year. It's just had the good quarterback play to actually back it up. And they finally got, Brandon Silvers in there who's balling out, got him to overtime. They allowed the Express continue what they were doing, just kept putting pressure on Paris, kept rushing him out the pocket. I've been saying this every single video. You push Paris out the pocket, he's not a good quarterback. He's a pocket passer. He does not do good on the run. And that's exactly what they did. They flushed him out the pocket and forced him to make throws across his body every single time. So what happens? Brandon Silver came in. He tried to throw to his favorite receiver, Reese Horn, who just balled out all game. He had 7 receptions for 113 yards and 1 TD. Reese Horn and Brandon Silver's that's a 1-2 connection right there all day. I saw a chance for MVP for that guy all over Twitter. And I don't disagree with him, but that kind of failed. But then he actually threw right down the middle and got the touchdown. But it was just, I don't know, it's just straight disrespectful how they did him the entire game. You had, like I said, you had Marvin Lewis and his commentating buddy talking about it. You had the halftime crew talking about it. They kept showing him on the sideline. Then they were tweeting out, oh, he was the first person to go meet Brandon Silvers after they won the game. Yo, who cares? Who won them the game? Brandon Silvers won the game. Put him on the graphics. Stop putting old dude on the graphics. So say next week when they play Orlando in Memphis and Brandon Silvers thinks with the joint, all right then. Now you've given Johnny at least 2 weeks to learn the playbook and actually get out there and actually win some games. I mean, he showed some flashes of his own self, but I mean, still, give Brandon Silvers the shot. That's all I'm saying. If he stinks with the joint, then you at least say you gave him a shot. This league is supposed to be a league of second chances. I guess there's only second chances if you got a certain name to you, like a Trent Richardson, like a Matt Asiata, or a Johnny Manziel. But if you're a Brandon Silvers, yeah, it's whatever. We'll push you to the side and start whoever we can so we get eyes on you. Luckily that the coaching staff was smart enough to be like, hey, we're going with who's going to win us this game. They were willing to see, okay, there's actual offensive production with a guy who's been in the training room with us, actually watching film with us, actually knows the playbook. Let's go with this guy. It makes sense. So good win for the Memphis Express. They're actually tied with the Atlanta Legends right now. I mean, it's not really saying anything, but they're both 2-5, but they're technically ahead of the Atlanta Legends. And Birmingham keeps playing the way they're playing. Like I've been saying, they're going to end up losing that number 2 spot. Birmingham has to play against Atlanta, who's been up and down, but they're playing back into Birmingham now. So it depends on what quarterback is going to show up. Is Luis Perez that showed up against San Diego is going to show up? Or is it going to be Luis Perez that we've seen in the past couple of weeks that gets benched for David Price? So just looking at the schedule, just for the Eastern Conference, for the Birmingham Iron right now, they got Atlanta next week. Then they go up against Arizona, and then they got to go play Orlando. So if they keep playing the way they're playing, 2 out of 3 of those games are going to be L's for them. At least the Hotshots and the Orlando Apollos. Atlanta might be able to squeak a win out of them just the way they're playing. For the Memphis Express, like I said, they got Orlando next week, and then they got to go to San Antonio, and then they end the season playing Atlanta. And then let's just look at Atlanta's schedule. Like I said, Atlanta's got to play Birmingham, which they technically can beat them if they actually show up. Then they got to play Salt Lake, my sleeper team, but the way they're playing, I mean, I want them to make the playoffs, but I don't know about that one. And then they got to play Memphis. So it'd be crazy to me if the final game, week 10, comes down to if Birmingham can beat Orlando or if Memphis can beat Atlanta, which would be insane. I don't know. It's just going back to the Manziel thing. If Brandon Silver stinks with the joint, then start Johnny Manziel. But if Brandon Silver is playing legit, keep him in the game. So far, there's 2 games he's played pretty decent. So a couple things I noticed during this weekend in football is, one, when the Alliance of American Football gives these commentators all the marching orders to speak about something, these guys talk about it all day long like they're like depends on it. All they talked about was the fact that Johnny Football was in the Alliance of American Football. Before that, they were talking about the sky cams. Before that, they were talking about the Easter egg in the app. I don't even think they do that anymore. So it's pretty annoying. It's pretty darn annoying that that's all they keep pushing. The second thing and the last thing is the fact that I absolutely hate the sky cam in certain stadiums. The way it just whips around, just have the normal angle. It's like that side angle where it just goes up and down the field. That's all you really need. That whole wire system just flying back and forth. I understand if you're behind a QB looking at it that way, and then like the way they have it on the app, but if you the way like Bleacher Report Live does it, and I want to say he was on not NFL Network, but I want to say CBS, where they just kept whipping the camera all around the place. That's just annoying as hell. So I just hope they get rid of that and go back just to a normal angle. So that's going to wrap it up for this recap of week 7 of Alliance American Football. If you like this video, hit like, share, subscribe, and hopefully the next 3 weeks of football are going to be legit. So I'll catch you guys on the next one.